Dearly beloved, we have gathered here today to get through this thing called Mix CD. My name is Mike, part of the SPDM crew, and I love making Mix CDs. Each week, we give our guests a theme and an 80-minute time limit for which songs they're going to pick for their Mix CD. This week, the Oscars are coming on, and this long-awaited journey to finally see who will win the all the awards this for the Oscars for the 2024 season is finally coming to an end. And what better way to talk about the Oscars and at least honor the Oscars with a mix of best song Oscar winners. And I have here Heath Lynch. Heath, welcome back. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Of course. So I pitched this topic to you because you write an article on Sif Pop. It is the what if for Oscars. So could you describe a little bit about what that article series is? I'll put a link to it in the episode notes, but what kind of inspired you to write that series, and what is it about the Oscars that interests you so much?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I absolutely love the Oscars. It's one of my favorite things. I'm a competitive person just by nature, and although art is an entirely subjective format, for whatever reason, you add a competitive element, and it just becomes that much more intriguing. And when movies are one of my favorite things, and then you make a competition out of it, well, I'm gonna love it. I've been a Oscar enthusiast since I would say the mid 90s. Is really the 97 year with Titanic that I really hard fell in love with it. And I've never missed an Oscar since. The Oscars are a holiday in my house, quite literally. We have a big party, a whole bunch of people over, giant watch party. We come over early to watch the red carpet. Everyone gets to be judgy little bitches and look at everyone's outfits. And we place bets on everything. We all fill out our Oscar ballot pool and throw money down. So there's a secondary element of fun to it that just, even for the people that aren't the biggest movie enthusiasts, they still love to come and hang out just to see, ooh, can I win some money? And man, it's just a fun time. Now, sometimes, and by sometimes I mean quite often, the Academy gets things wrong and it's
Mhm.
not always the best, but I still really love the Oscars. And it was from that love that I really wanted to start doing a monthly column of some kind. I wanted to write about it more. And I approached the editors of Sif Pop, Robert and Aaron, but not that Aaron, and about just, hey, why don't we have like awards coverage? You know, we do our Sifties every year, which is just our contributing writers all collaborating on what we liked as writers, but it's not, we don't do any awards coverage on the actual award circuit. We don't have articles about the Golden Globes, about the BAFTAs, about the Critics' Choice, the SAGs, the DGAs, all of these things, let alone the Oscars, which is the biggest thing every year. The closest thing we come to it is Aaron Dicer does a live broadcast as the Oscars are going on, but that's still, it's not quite the same. You know, that's just, you know, watching Dicer's reactions to the Oscars as they're happening. It's not
Mhm.
actual coverage of it or analysis. And it was decided that, yeah, let's go forward with trying to make some kind of episode, see what we could put together. And the idea was, well, let's not make it like everyone else. You know, everyone else and their mom, you could go to Variety, you could go to Rotten Tomatoes, you could go to all these different media sites, and they're all going to have kind of the same thing. These are the films to look out for these years, this year, that year, whatever. These are the films that are good. These are the ones we predict to win, all those kind of things. Or the converse, the flip side of that coin is that's all like beforehand, the afterhand of, okay, the awards happened. Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? Who got snubbed? What should have won? Stuff like that. And so, what we wanted to bring to the table was a different kind of conversation that was still in the same vein, which was,
Mhm.
okay, let's look at the Oscars and the Academy Awards holistically and say, could they be doing more? What else is out there that we could be awarding? We do best actor and actress, we do screenwriting, we do cinematographer, we do film editing, visual effects, all these things. But that doesn't cover the entirety
No,
of
no,
the
it
film
doesn't.
industry. It's not even close, or even just the different types of films that you could award. And so it was decided, okay, we're going to look at the history of the Oscars and see three types of categories. If you look back, one, categories that used to exist, that the Academy used to give out awards for, that they just stopped. They discontinued the category at some point in time. Two, awards and categories that the Academy has proposed, but for whatever reason, they got cold feet. They were a little chicken and they didn't go through with it. They said they were going to start making this category an annual award, but it never actually happened. Or
Mhm.
three, there are just some things that are so egregious and you look at them and you're like, why the hell isn't this a category? This should exist. I don't care if it's never happened before and they've never even talked about doing it before. This should be a category. So, with that in mind, I have a series called the Oscars What If, where I go back and look at past years and I look at five potential categories: best stunts and choreography, given to the best achievement in dance, stunts, related performances, and overall choreography for a film. This is an homage to there used to be a best dance choreography back in like the early golden age when musicals
When
were all the
that used to
rage.
be a big thing, yeah.
Yeah, but they discontinued it. But stunt work should absolutely be honored. It is a massive part of filming, and it's not just action films. Every film uses stunts to some degree. You just don't think about it.
Mhm.
Like in Wicked this past year, when Elphaba's flying around on a broom, that's still Cynthia Erivo suspended up in the air on a broom as it's being
Singing,
twisted and twirled
singing
around as
too.
she has to sing. That is a stunt. Like
We all can't be Tom Cruise and have crazy stunts.
exactly.
Sometimes it's as simple as a fall or, just doing a tumble.
Sure.
That still counts
That's a
as a
still a
stunt.
stunt. Absolutely. And again, dance choreography, synchronized dances, and all that. So I wanted to get that in there. Best stunts and choreography. I also have best performance by voiceover or motion capture. Frankly, this is very simple. When we look at the Oscars and we look at best actor, actress, supporting, all that, yada, yada, it never once in the history of the Oscars, at least that I'm aware of, have they ever nominated a voice actor or a
Mhm.
motion capture performance. It's never happened. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not here to cast judgment on the Academy, what they got right and wrong. That is a whole different conversation. But what I am saying is some of these voice talents and motion capture talents are really talented people and they've put
Mhm.
out spectacular performances. But because the Oscars are narrow in what they consider awarding for best performance, these things are 100% of the time overlooked. The most egregious example and the most famous is going to be Andy Serkis as Gollum in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers and Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. But you can look at way, way more than that. So I wanted to have something where we can be like, oh yeah, Lupita Nyong'o was tremendous in The Wild Robot this year. Peter McCrone was tremendous in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes this year. And they should get recognition for that. Another one is best performance by an ensemble cast. Individual performances are fantastic. We love them. But sometimes it's almost even more impressive when that individual performance can work well within a larger ensemble performance and everyone in that ensemble is clicking. And I just think it's something that we should really be taking into account, that we should be awarding. I look at stuff this year and like Saturday Night
The
is a
perfect
great
example of
film
that.
where like would I individually nominate any one of those performances for an Oscar? Probably
Probably
not,
not.
because on an individual basis they're just not that level of excellent. But as an ensemble, that is almost like a symphony of choreographed ensemble performances where one scene and camera pan leads to another person who's giving another line delivery that goes to another person backstage, and it's never ending, and it's damn impressive when you look at it and watch and be like, holy crap, what they were able to pull off there is music in acting form with a cast of what, 25 different people. That's impressive. And then two more I do is also best directorial debut. I know we have best director, but sometimes I like to look out for the little guy and do best directorial debut. I think they used to do this at the Critics' Choice Awards, or maybe even still do. I don't remember. And I know that they do it at the Directors Guild Awards, or at
Mhm.
least they used to. I'm pretty sure they still do. And again, this is a great way to just be like, oh, look, these were great films that were debut films by young talent people we should be looking out for, because what's
And encouraging
and
that.
encouraging people looking at more than just the mainstream films or the big director films. And what you'll tend to find is throughout the years, as I've been doing this series, I noticed like, oh, I'm nominating this film from a little guy named Christopher Nolan, who eventually one day later, about 15, 20 years later, wins best director. And it happens more often than you think, because
Mhm.
it's a great way to track and see like there's a direct line from this person had something special at their debut, and over the years, over the decades, they honed their craft, and then they boom, they got their actual best director win. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And then the last one is best popular film. Now this one's controversial. It was actually proposed by the Academy themselves. They said they were going to go through with this,
And they retreated
and
so
then
quickly.
they cowered and withdrew and stuck their tail between their legs and ran away as fast as they could because of fan outrage online. And I have to say, I actually think they should have gone through with it. I think they just horribly mismanaged it from a marketing perspective and media perspective, and in articulating what that award could have or should have been. Long story short, the way I go about it is I look at the top 25 domestic earning films in any given year, and I say, okay, these were therefore the most popular films of the year. They were the biggest moneymakers, the biggest box office draws, and what of them are the quote unquote best, the best quality film. And I do kind of an aggregate of, what their critic scores were. I look at Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, I look at Letterboxd, and importantly, I also look at awards. How did these films perform at the Academy Awards, at the Golden Globes, at the BAFTAs, stuff like that. And I think it's been really fascinating and interesting. I think it's also a great way to award, and I hate using the word snobby, but I'm going to use the word snobby or pretentious. The way some people look at film and be like, oh, why are we just awarding something because it was popular at the box office? No, it's more than that. It was popular and it was really good. And if the Oscars actually wanted to start attracting young viewers or the more casual movie going audience like they once did, like back in the 90s, their viewership numbers were tremendous. They're not these days. Why? Because they nominate a lot of small art house films, which I'm totally fine with, because I do agree that those are usually the better films. The thing is, they just make more movies these days than they used to back in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. So like the big popular films aren't always the best films anymore. These smaller films are. So I'm
Mhm.
fine with them still going the way they're going with best picture and all these things. But sometimes, yeah, it's nice to just be like, you know what, a lot of people like Spider-Man No Way Home. Is there anything wrong with that? Could we have said something, that set box office records, people went to it in droves, and it made people really happy. It was
Mhm.
the culmination of like a 20-year journey of Spider-Man films. That was cool. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I'm going to give an example just from one of the years. So I did Oscars What If 2007, which is actually for the Oscars were celebrated in 2007. That means the films of 2006. For Best Stunts and Choreography, I nominated Casino Royale, Children of Men, High School Musical, Mission Impossible 3, and Pirates of the Caribbean, The Dead Man's Chest. I gave it to Casino Royale for the win. Best Performance by Voiceover and Motion Capture. I'm not going to do all the nominees, but the winner was Bill Nighy as Davy Jones in Pirates of
Mhm.
the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. For Best Performance by an Ensemble, I gave it to The Departed from that year. For Directorial Debut, I gave it to Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Faris for Little Miss Sunshine. And for Best Popular Film, I gave it to Casino Royale. And again, I think those are all valid wins. If you want to see these articles in full, they're all up online. They're all on SIFPOP. I started back in 1975, and I've been doing monthly articles on this and analysis ever since I started, and that was back in 2022. And I'm up to 2009 now. The Oscars of 2009, which will be the films of 2008, will be coming out this March.
Oh my God, what are you gonna do when you're finished in a couple years?
I'm gonna breathe and be happy.
because because I
It's
can
been really
imagine
rewarding. I've genuinely loved doing this series, but to
you
be
have to
very
watch a
clear,
lot of
yeah,
movies for
I,
that.
because I don't like to half-ass things. I'm not just randomly just researching and picking stuff, and then writing this article in like 20 minutes. I go and I watch about roughly 25 to 35 films every month from those given years to really make sure I understand that given year and that I'm not missing anything. I look at every single film that was at least nominated for 2 or more Oscars. And then I also go to every single major film from the top 25 domestic box office earner of that year. And when I determine major, I mean movies that people were talking about,
Yeah.
that people would remember. And then I also just go to like Letterboxd and IMDb and just kind of look at the highest rated films of that year that may have gotten overlooked by the Oscars and may not have been a great box office performer. And yeah, I usually end up with about 25 to 35 films that I'm watching every single month. It takes a lot of time, so much so that this year, for the first time, I'm now doing the series every other month. I'm doing it bi-monthly just because it has just been so taxing on my schedule for the past several years. So when this is over, Mike, I'll be thrilled. As much as I've loved doing the research and I've learned so much more and I've seen so many more movies, man, I can't wait for this to be done. I will have so much more free time.
Right. Well, it's a great article series. I always look forward to reading it every
Thank you.
month when it comes out. So we'll be sure to link that, and it just shows that you're incredibly passionate about it. So let's talk really quick before we get into our lists.
Yes.
You got any Oscar hot takes for, because this episode is gonna release on Oscars Sunday. So
Oh, day of.
yeah. So, do you have any Oscars hot takes that you want to get off your chest or any wild predictions?
Ooh, Oscars hot takes. I don't know if they're the hottest of hot takes, but I'll give you takes. How's that?
Okay. I will
Uh,
I will gladly accept room temperature to lukewarm takes.
I well, I'll give you an ice cold take to start, which is Amelia Perez sucks. I hate this movie with a
Mhm.
violent, burning passion. Frankly, I find it insulting, and I use that word very deliberately, insulting that it received 13 Oscar nominations, which is a tie for the second most Oscar nominations in the history of the Academy
Such,
Awards.
but
It's so stupid.
I cannot believe that that got 13 nominations. I
Yeah,
don't
it
understand.
leads the year in nominations. It by 3. The second most nominated film was The Brutalist at 10. It's just a joke. I personally come out with my own Oscar article on my Letterboxd. I post it every Oscar Sunday. I've already typed mine up. I just haven't published it, but I'll give you guys a hint. Not a single thing from Amelia Perez receives a nomination on my Oscars. Not
Mhm.
even Zoe Saldana, who I do think is the best part of the movie. I still don't think she is one of the best actress performances of the year. And by the
Mhm.
way, I say best actress, not supporting. That is category fraud in the highest
It's
order.
total category fraud.
She is absolutely the lead of that
She's
film.
the main character.
the, the whole film is from her perspective. The film opens with her and closes with her, and she has the most screen time. She is the lead. So Amelia Perez is a joke. I've resigned myself to the fact that Zoe Saldana is going to win, and it's going to win a best original song, and I'm just hoping that that's all it wins and it gets shut out of all the other categories and nominations. The other qualm I have is more so with A24, which is I will never forgive
Mm,
A24 for how they handled Sing Sing, which I
yeah.
think is easily the best film of the year. I think it is emotionally evocative in ways that few films ever are. It made me cry so much. I thought it was the greatest exploration of humanity that came out of film this year. Coleman Domingo getting an actor nomination is tremendous, but Clarence Divine I. Macklin should have absolutely gotten a supporting actor nomination. It should have gotten a best picture nomination. It's a joke, and I attribute that way more to A24.
It's absolutely
Yeah,
A24 fumbling the release schedule and
yeah,
trying to prop up other movies
yeah. Just
before they
wholly
prop that
deciding
one.
to be 100% behind the Brutalist and completely screwing over Sing Sing. And there was another bigger A24 film this year that's now drawing a blank on me that they kind of screwed over as well. I think Dune Part 2 should have gotten more love. I kind of have always thought that, going back to Dune 1. I think Nosferatu should have gotten more love. I think a lot of people had kind of made up their minds by that point because that came out on Christmas and
Yeah.
awards had already started happening by then. The Golden Globes had already happened at that point. So I think it was just kind of out of it just because it was too late in the season, which is a shame because Nosferatu is one of the better movies this year and way more unique and distinct than a lot of the things that are getting acclaim.
Well, it's also kind of horseshit as well because to your point, Nosferatu didn't get a whole lot of love at the Golden Globes, yet Squid Game season 2 can make its way
Yeah.
to a best drama series for that year, no problem.
Yep. It's
So stupid.
laughable. I think challengers got really hosed. I think frankly, you could make a solid argument that challengers should have been a best picture nominee. That's where I would have it.
I
And
agree.
at bare minimum, that should have been up for original score and original song. And it's not, and that's a joke. Also, I would have liked to see some love for Furiosa, at least for like sound,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
how is that not there for sound or visual effects? And I'm a big documentary person, and this is more a complaint with the Academy in terms of its rules. They need to get better at making these films available to people.
Yes, they
And
do.
now, no other land aside, because that is not received American distribution for political reasons. So I'm not talking about no other land, but the other films nominated for Best Documentary are incredibly hard to find. And that's really unfortunate. They need to make better rules about when things should be released, so that moviegoers can actually find these and watch these. But specifically, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn on Netflix is one of my favorite films of the year, period. It's in my top 10 of the year. It is beautiful. It's a documentary about this boy who spent his whole life playing World of Warcraft because he had a degenerative physical disease that impaired him from physically moving, and that's pretty much all he could do. And it's this really beautiful turn at how, like, even through video games, this man affected so much and had such a great impact on people's lives around the world. And I think that's just so beautiful and such an important message in today's age. And the only other thing I would bitch about is original song. My two favorite categories are documentary feature and original song. This is the first year and maybe as long as I can remember, since I've been watching in the mid 90s, maybe before I was even born, where they're not going to sing the songs at this year's Oscars. And if they were ever to pick a year to do that, this is the year to do it because most of these songs suck. Two of them are from Amelia Perez and they're just not good. It's really disappointing that it came to that, but it's even more disappointing when you realize it didn't have to come to that, that there were better songs out there that they just willingly chose to ignore. Even on their short list, there were better songs. And
Hmm.
it really bothers me. If anyone saw the movie Your Monster, there's an awesome, epic musical number at the end of that movie. The song is called My Stranger. You can look it up online. And it is terrific. And Melissa Barrera belts it out, and it's so good. And that would have been a tremendous original song. But of course, it came from a genre splicing rom com horror comedy musical, and they didn't want to
We
touch it.
we can't have anything like that at
Yeah,
our precious
exactly.
Oscars.
Also, as a side rant to original songs, stop putting songs that are just credit songs. Use songs that are actually in the movie, please. It just bothers me. So yeah.
Lazy, lazy,
So there's
but
all my mediocre to cold Oscar takes that I have a feeling a lot of people also have, and that's fine.
yeah, I largely agree with everything that you just said. Like I wish that Amelia Perez wasn't nominated for anything, but that's
Yeah.
not how Hollywood works.
It would
And
be a much more interesting Oscars if it was. That opens up so much more space for other films to get in there. Oh man.
I totally agree with you on challengers. It irks me to no end that challengers got shut out completely. The score and the song minimum is just ridiculous that it didn't get anything like that. One thing I will give the Oscars credit for is that there's some things like I don't know what's gonna win this year. And I'm like particularly for Best Picture and some of the other random categories like Best Picture and Best Actor seem like they're kind of up in the air. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that all hashes out.
Yeah,
But
I'm pretty locked in on my guess for best picture at this point. But it is, I would agree with your sentiment of it's more up in the air, especially at least comparatively to
the
what it's
last
been in
couple of
recent
years,
years.
yeah,
Whereas like fuck, I feel like last year, and for the record, I wanted Oppenheimer to win. So I'm not even saying this as a slight, but I feel like we knew it was Oppenheimer like 2 weeks after Oppenheimer was in theaters. It was like universally the movie world just agreed, like, oh, it's Christopher Nolan's time, right? Like he wins
hmm
director. This is going to win best picture. We could probably give Cillian Murphy the best actor. Like, let's just load it up. And like, so going into last year's Oscars, it was very anticlimactic in that sense. Whereas this one, again, I think there is a front runner at this point, but man, it's been a roller coaster getting to that front runner because we've gone through several different front runners now, and who knows, crazier things have happened. We could get a Green Book situation where
and
like the least objectionable, a complete unknown or conclave just kind of sneaks in and takes it. So like there's varying paths that this could go in any which direction.
so suffice to say that we're both looking forward to the Oscars this
Absolutely.
year to see how this all hashes out and to see how many times that Amelia Perez gets shut out
Oh, I can't wait.
from the Oscars. So let's pivot now and let's talk about best song. So we both kind of agreed that this was something that we wanted to talk about because we both love the Oscars and there'd be no better person for me to choose to have for this episode to talk about what are some of our favorite best song Oscar winners. So there's a finite list because we chose only winners, not like from all the nominees, because that would be a taxing exercise to see which ones we both thought were like more worthy. So kind of walk me through what was the criteria that you looked at and what was most important to you when it came to selecting the songs that were on your list.
Yeah, so this was actually a really interesting case study. Again, I've expressed already that I really like Best Original Song. It's one of my favorite categories. I get really into it. But if you look at the history of this award, and it started not at the original Oscars, in fact, this didn't start till the seventh one in 1934, there have not been many great winners. I
No,
think that's the nicest way I could put it.
there's not.
There really haven't. If I'm also being completely transparent and candid, there's also a lot of years where I just don't know them. I wasn't alive. I was born in the mid 80s. And, you know, I'm not really stoked to go digging through the 1940s and 50s to find traditional best original song winners. Now, if I reckon, I went to the list of winners, all time winners, and if I recognized a song title, of course, I went back and found that track and listened to it and be like, oh yeah, I do know that song. I recognize that. But then there were others where I played this and I was like, I've never heard this before in my life. And it
Mhm.
kind of sucks. It's kind of not catchy. And to that end, you'd find that there's a lot of these years where you go back and you're like, oh, this is the song that actually won? Really? Because you'll look at some of the other things that it's nominated against and you're like, oh shit, that song's better. That
Mhm.
song's better. That song's, how did this win? And that happens in this category a lot. A
Yes.
lot. There's some of these years, some of these songs we'll have on our list where you'll think, oh, but wasn't that up against this other one? And I'll be like, well, yeah, but that other one didn't win.
No, it did not. And I went through a very similar exercise and just scratching my head at some of these ones that are awarded. And it just goes to show that this award has always been very political and
Yes.
very much. how you campaign, which is horseshit, but them the bricks, right?
Even in recent years, I would love to put the Lego movie Everything is Awesome on this playlist. That'd be great. It was nominated. It didn't win. It lost to Selma and Glory by Common and John Legend, which is a good song. It's a political song. It's stirring. It's moving. It's not a better song than Everything is Awesome. Like it's just, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. Or I look at like 2016 when La La Land won and City of Stars was the winner. I like City of Stars. It's a really pretty ballad. It's a beautiful song. But that's not even the best song from that movie that was nominated. Audition Song was nominated, and that is a much better song. Let alone you had How Far I'll Go from Moana or Can't Stop the Feeling, which is one of the catchiest freaking songs ever from Trolls. And so there's plenty of examples of this, by the way. You could almost every year or every other year, there's another example of, oh damn, that was nominated. That would have been great to add to this list, but I can't because it didn't win. So there's going to be a lot of that, I think, for both of us as we continue to go through this, where we're just like, oh yeah, well, this one didn't win, or there's really not many great ones that you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to go back and listen to that song. So like, although my list is 20, my playlist is 21 songs, and it's right under the wire. It's 1 hour and 19 minutes, so just under the 80-minute threshold. And I believe yours is the exact same.
Same
Yep,
number of songs, 1 hour and 19
yep.
minutes.
When I put together my initial list of songs, I only had like 28 or 30 songs. I did not have to trim that much to get down to 21 songs, because again, there weren't that many songs I even wanted to consider in the first place, because most of them aren't that good. I hate
Right.
to say it, it's just the truth.
No, I get what you're saying because I felt very similar doing this. It was a very interesting exercise because looking through some of the songs, I'm more familiar with the songs pre or like post when I was alive, so 1985 on,
Yeah,
and then going back and looking at some of the songs that were nominated and being like, really? This
yeah.
this was the one? And even looking through some of the songs that won, like particularly in the 90s when Disney was just like cleaning
Disney
up and
dominated,
dominated,
cleaned house. Yeah.
and rightfully so with a lot of these songs. But I look at some of the other songs that were nominated. I mean, like, well, was You've Got a Friend in Me better than Colors in the Wind in 1995? I would say yes, but Colors of the
I mean,
Wind is
it's tough. My biggest sore point, actually, I'll save that one. Just another example of one, like I would love nothing more than to put Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 on this playlist. If you look at the nominations from 1980, that is easily the most famous song there.
mhm.
I mean, 9 to 5, you could make an argument that's maybe Dolly Parton's most famous song ever. That gets played all the time. And that lost to Fame, the song Fame from the movie Fame, which is a good song. I actually don't like it, but like out of spite, I didn't include it in my list because I think 9 to 5 is so much better. And I hate country. I am not a country person. And 9 to 5 is such a banger that even I'm
It's
like, oh, this song's fucking awesome.
mhm.
And I don't know how they passed that up. So like I even had situations with that where it's like, all right, well, I could put Fame on here, but spite pick, no, I'm not gonna, because it knocked off Dolly Parton for no reason. And
Mhm.
then I look at my biggest frustration ever. My favorite of all time original movie song is That Thing You Do from the film That Thing You Do in 1996. That is one of my favorite movies. It's in my top 100 films of all time. It might even be in my top 50. I think it is a brilliant look at 1950s Americana going into the 60s, and commentary on the British music invasion from the American perspective. And it actually does so much while also delivering awesome music, while also delivering hilarious performances. It's tremendous. If you've never seen it, go look up That Thing You Do. All that to say, You Must Love Me by Evita
Avita.
from Evita won that year. And I've seen Evita and I've heard that song multiple times. In no way, shape, or form is that song better than That Thing You Do. Just irrevocably, it's not. And if I blind played those to people without any context of like, hey, one of these won an Oscar, one didn't. Can you get, like, I would just, just put them on the radio. Hey, did you like one more than the other? 100 times out of 100, everyone's going to say That Thing You Do. No one is going to pick the song from Evita.
No.
Most people don't even know the name of the song. Had we not said it just now, you wouldn't know the name of the song either.
No,
And it's
absolutely not. Because I've seen Evita. I kind of blocked it out of my brain because I was like,
it's
it's
very
fine.
mediocre. It's
It's
meh.
fine. It's super long. Antonio
Yes.
Banderas can't really sing per
Nope.
se. And I guess at the end of the day,
It was a
so
vanity project for Madonna. Cool. I
yeah.
mean, that's kind of what it amounts to. And I look at That Thing You Do and I'm just like, oh, this is still just an amazing song. It's been 30 years almost, and this song is still great. I still watch this movie all the time. And every time this song comes on, and to be clear, they play that song maybe almost a dozen times in that movie. They play it all the time. And every time I'm like, yeah, no, this is still catchy. I'm not even tired of it. It's one of the greatest earworms. And I hate that I couldn't include that song on this list. It just
No,
drives me nuts.
I completely agree with you. I host trivia every Wednesday night, and I play That Thing You Do at least once a month because
It's great.
I love that song. It's
It's so
just
good.
such a banger of a song, and also it just I love playing it because there's a group of younger trivia people who they're like, "What is this song, and why do you keep playing it?" And I'm always like, "Fuck you! Watch the movie, and you get it." So yeah, that
So,
was
needless to say, in summary, listener, there's going to be a lot of this where there was a song we wanted, but it just didn't win. And the amount and the actual quantity of quality good songs that won is not nearly as many as you think. So, we're going to have very similar lists in a lot of ways, just shuffled up in different orders because of the almost 90 plus winners they've had of this category. There's maybe 30 or 40 that are decent to good. And I would say there's probably 25 plus that are actually great.
mhm,
And so that's why our lists are 21 long.
right. So I'll kind of just let it out of the bag also. So my order for this is release order or like winner order. And
Gotcha.
the reason why I picked that because I can see that it is a very lazy way to arrange this.
But it's
However,
also history. Yeah.
exactly. That is exactly why I chose it for that reason is because it feels like a time capsule on where we were at because my first song on my list is the first best song winner from the Gay Divorcee, which I did it's so weird that I did one of Shane's podcasts where he had me watch this and I was like, I've never heard of this movie, but I'll give it a shot. And
It's a good
come
movie.
it's a good movie. It's fun, I guess. So, but also just for me, it's just a reminder. It's like, hey, I need to watch more Fred Astaire stuff because
He's great.
I
Fred and Ginger, just watching them together. I think they did like 7 or 8 movies together. They're
mhm.
always magical.
So that is how I arranged mine. How did you kind of arrange yours? Because you're very methodical when it comes
Yes.
to arranging.
I'm not going to go into it as deep as I did last time. Just as a quick refresher for those who didn't catch the episode I was last on. Same concept. I arrange mine in a format that my playlist takes you on a roller coaster. I My only requisites for specific types of songs are in the first slot, third, fourth, and final track slot. So the first slot has to be an introductory song. It has to have a song that has an intro, opening segment. It can't just drop right into a vicious beat or immediate singing. That's too jarring. I need to build up a crescendo into a song, and it needs to be a really catchy song that pulls people in to want to listen to the rest of the album. That builds up to the third track. I kind of view it like a baseball lineup. My three spot, that's it. That's the banger. That is my best hitter. That should be either my best song or my most important song, one of the
Mhm.
two. And then right behind it, number four, the cleanup spot, that is what I consider sneakily my actual best song. Like the number three, that's the one that hooks you and makes you go, oh, this album is really working, but the number 4 is that much better. It just may not be as popular of a track or whatever. And you hear that and you're just like, oh, okay, now I'm locked in for the rest of the album. This is
Mhm.
great. And then I'll kind of just go on a ride. I'll go up and down different types of songs, different types of music, but there's generally a flow to it until I get to my last song, and that is always 100% of the time a ballad. I usually want something slow, emotional, gripping, that is a nice send off and calm, quiet, or more quiet ending tone to round out the album. So
Mhm.
that's what I did here with a traditional, really great intro track, building up to tracks 3 and 4, and then just a fun roller coaster of emotions and different stylings all the way until I get to number 21, which is a ballad for me.
Well, so we both have 21. So why don't we group these in three and I'll go first. So
You got it.
the first three I have on here, it is among the earliest Academy Award winning movies or the earliest best song winners. So I had the in order the Gay Divorcee for the Continental, which one of my favorite things about movies is discovering, oh, that's where this comes from. And this is one where it's like, I've heard the Continental
Yeah,
before. And I was like, I never knew that it was from this. So discovering that was really cool. And I appreciate that. The next song is, to me, this was one that I knew right off the bat was it had to be included on here, which is The Wizard of Oz, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which
absolutely. Has
is
to be there.
one of the greatest songs from a movie ever.
Ever, period. End of statement.
And then following that up with the 1940 winner, which this was also back in the day when there was like way more than five nominees,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous because sometimes there's not even five. Sometimes it's just like fuck it, we can't find
There were
five
9
songs.
nominees this year. And then I think of like the year the Muppets won with Man or Muppet, there were 2.
Yeah, but Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star, is
Sure. I mean, it's
dare
the
dare I
Disney theme
say
song now.
dare I say one of the greatest Disney songs of all time, and that's
Yeah,
saying a lot.
that is saying a lot, and it's an accurate statement. I mean, there's a reason that is the theme song, and I think it's become ubiquitous so much so that people don't even always think that it's the
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio song. That's
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's the Disney song. Look, there's Tinkerbell flying over the Disney castle, and like you just move on with your life. Like it's just you don't even think of it as When You Wish Upon a Star.
Mhm.
It's grown to usurp what it started as, and I agree. I think it is a beautiful song and one of the best Disney has ever made.
So, and truth be told, as well, with the album cover as well, my album cover is a combination of Somewhere Over the Rainbow and When You Wish Upon a Star, where you've got Jiminy Cricket looking out a window at a star, and then there's just a rainbow there, because that is how much I hold in high esteem both of these two songs. So
Absolutely.
from an order standpoint and kind of like using your logic, I am very glad that When You Wish Upon a Star ended up third on my list, because I agree the third song on any album is always super important.
Yeah,
And I
because
think,
that's the make or break. If you
yeah,
get 3 tracks into an album and you're not locked in at that point, you're not going to listen anymore. So
exactly. So those were my first three. And to capture kind of the spirit of Hollywood and what this award represents, even if I wasn't doing it in order, I mean, I think what I would probably do maybe would be switch the When You Wish Upon a Star and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That's probably about it.
yeah, I totally get that. I before I go into my first 3, I'm gonna do a little bit of commentary on a couple of yours, and feel free, by the way, as we're going back and forth, if you have commentary on mine,
Yeah.
feel free to include specifically commentary on why I didn't include them. So one of those 3 I also have, the other 2 I don't. I don't have the Continental. I really wanted to try to put it in there because it is the first. Like it felt like, oh, if I'm doing an album about best original songs, that should be there. It's the first one to ever win. Like just for history's sake, I should include it. But then I remembered this is an album of the best original songs.
Hmm.
And although, like you said, it's kind of cool to know where that song came from, the Continental, because it kind of has transcended beyond just the film. Like, if you heard it, you might not know it's called the Continental, but you'd probably be like, oh, I recognize that song. I've heard it somewhere. When you actually watch the movie The Gay Divorcee, they play this song at one point for almost 20 minutes straight.
Has nothing to do
And
with
it has
anything.
nothing to do with anything. It's just a 20-minute long dance number of them singing and dancing to the Continental. And it's almost not almost, it is infuriating. It's just like, what the hell are they doing? Now, I still think it's a good movie and it's definitely worth your time. Please check it out. It's 1934. It's classic Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. But I still have a bit of a sore spot. And I watched that film most recently, still like 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm just like, oh my God, this song. And just like hearing it, I'm just like, it drives me up a wall a little bit. So I didn't want to include it because while it is a winner of Best Original Song, I wouldn't say it's one of the best of the best original songs, at least for me.
I gotcha.
And then I also didn't include When You Wish Upon a Star. This one really hurt. I really wanted to include it because it's the Disney theme and it's so important. And I actually love it. I do think it is one of the best ones. But when I started making my album, that because I didn't do it in like a historical order like you did, I could find no place to place that where it
Mhm.
made sense thematically within the landscape of the album I was constructing. At no point was there like, oh yeah, this song definitely flows well into When You Wish Upon a Star, or When You Wish Upon a Star really flows well into this other song. Like it just, I couldn't find a place for it. It just felt so awkward in my playlist that I just had to cut it. And as well, I already had like 4 or 5 other Disney songs, and I was like, at at some point, this is going to become 25% Disney, and I can't do that. So
Yeah. No, I hear you there with the Disney part of it because I think I would include a lot more Disney if I had less restraint
yeah,
because it's Disney there.
yeah.
And you look at the list also of the Disney songs that have lost
Oh my
best
God,
best
it's
song.
ridiculous.
It's it's crazy. And to think that we live in a world where there are some like amazing Disney songs, and even also you lump in some Pixar songs as well that didn't win. And then we have fucking Zippity Doodah
Yeah.
winning one year. It's like, what a time, right? This this is
Uh,
so fucking stupid. But but here we are. And at some point got to make a song, like, got to make a list of like the best Disney songs out there, but it's not this list. And
yeah.
it like there's a couple on yours that were cuts for me because I knew that like I couldn't have like all the Disney songs. And there's one specific song that's on your list that I can't wait until you talk about it because
Yeah.
there's a very petty reason why I didn't include it on my list. So
And that I can't wait to hear it. So yeah, just like I just did, when we get to ones that you didn't include, let me know
okay.
because I'd be very interested as to, because again, because there's not that many good songs that were winners, we're going to have a lot of crossover. So the ones we cut, I think it will be interesting explaining why they were cut.
Okay.
So I'll do my first three now. My first track is Lose Yourself by Eminem from 8 Mile. This is just, it's so good. There's just no other way. It's so good. There's a reason
It
why a few years ago they're like, oh, we don't really have any great songs this year. Let's just bring Eminem back and he can like do the 20-year anniversary of Lose Yourself. And it
Mhm.
just didn't make sense. And people were like looking out in the crowd, like, why is M here? But I don't care because it was still Mom Spaghetti, and we love it. It's
It's
just so
so
good.
this is also a great song to have as your opener as
Yes,
well. It's just the
that
just
piano coming in at the
oh,
dun
it's just
dun dun
so
dun 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 dun. Like it's the perfect way to build up, like I was talking about, crescendo, and then when you start to get the guitar, the dun 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 dun, dun and it starts bouncing, and he comes in. That first verse is just iconic now. One half of it is just the meme, the Mom Spaghetti part, which is
mhm.
so great. But like more than that, it's relatable. That
Yeah.
first, the idea of just being so nervous and anxious that you freeze up and can't do anything. There's no human being in their life that hasn't felt that at some point. And like you immediately snap and lock in, and you're like, this song's a banger. And it speaks to just, again, the song is literally about pursuing music, but thematically, you can extrapolate that to be about anything and just pursuing a passion. And
Hmm.
again, that just makes it so relatable. And it's just such a great song. And I just wanted that energy to open my album.
It's a great pick. It will appear on my album a little bit later once we get to the 2000s. Plus, also, there's something iconic about this because the Academy Awards for a long time didn't really recognize rap.
Rap. Yeah.
And for this to be the first rap song to win best song, there's something to be said about that because even when Eminem got announced, because I felt like it was a foregone conclusion out of all the songs that he was probably going to win. And even he was like, really? Like, well, okay, yeah, let's do this. Even more so when 3 6 Mafia won their Oscar, which we'll get to that, unfortunately. So, anyways, continue.
It's hard out here for a pimp. My next one, and at this point, I was just going for iconic songs. That was
Mhm.
because if you remember the last time I was on this show, I also talked about how I make subgroupings kind of within my album or within my playlist, that there are like 2 or 3 tracks in a row that kind of have a theme. My first 3 are like that. These are when you think of best original song from a movie in your head, these first 3 that I'm doing are probably the first 3 you think of, like
Mhm.
in all sincerity. And if they're not the first 3, they're at least 3 of the
Pretty
first
close.
5.
They're
Yeah,
pretty
like they're
close.
real close. So Lose Yourself by Eminem from 8 Mile, and then My Heart Will Go On, Celine Dion, Titanic. Again, you can meme on it all you want. The song's been made fun of, the movie's been made fun of, but you know what? I don't care. The movie is triumphant. It won freaking everything. It was king of the world in terms of box office for
Mhm. A
almost
long
15
time.
years
Yeah.
until Avatar came out and James Cameron shattered his own record. It's still one of the top 5 best grossing films of all time. And people loved this. And I if you were alive in the 90s when this came out and you can remember that time, this song was played
On the
all the
radio
time,
so goddamn much.
everywhere. You heard it on the radio, you heard it at the grocery store, you heard it on the elevator, you heard it at the mall. Like no matter where you went, you heard this song. And so like there's a generation of people that are probably tired of this song, but if you've been divorced from it for a while and you maybe haven't heard it in a few years, 5 years, maybe even a decade, and you go back and listen to this and you're just like, okay, yeah, this is certifiably good. Celine Dion is just excellent. Her voice performance is so profound. She's putting so much power behind it. She sounds so good, and it resonates from that James New. It's James Newton Howard who did this, or no, James
Yeah.
Horner.
James
I'm sorry,
Horner. Yeah.
James Horner did the score. It uses the basis of James Horner's score to make the music itself instrumentally for Celine Dion to sing over. And so that evokes the film in such a fascinating way. I think it works really well. And I don't care what people think of it negatively. I don't care that it gets memed on. It's a great song.
It's a great song. And I think sometimes, like particularly younger kids, unfortunately, they they don't realize just the power behind Celine Dion's voice.
Yeah.
Because she had a string of a bunch of songs during this time period where she was nominated, or her songs were nominated for best song a couple of times. And to me, also one of the things that I really enjoy about this song is her performance at the Oscars
Yes.
was
You can go
just
watch the YouTube video. It's great.
she's wearing the necklace, or at least a replica of the necklace, and it's she just had it, and it was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and I can't believe someone is that talented. Like it's kind of bullshit, but this also is a movie where there's sometimes, because the 90s was really big with movie like theme songs for
Yeah.
movies. And this
And I
kind of
missed
go
that, by the way, just as an aside.
I
Like
totally agree.
there was something really fun about that. Just be like, oh yeah, this was this movie, and then it had its own song, like to the point that they would make music videos where
Mhm.
sections of the film were intercut into the music video, and that was like a big part of the marketing, like cross promotionally. It was marketing, the song was marketing the movie was marketing the song. And like they don't do, like Seal's Kiss from a Rose in Batman Forever might just be one of the greatest things in the world. And then when Mountain Dew did their parody commercial during the Super Bowl this year, I just lost my shit. But still,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that because there were certain songs that they did that were theme songs like, yeah, this really fits.
yep,
And then you have something, and Kiss from a Rose was a perfect example of that. Is like, this makes no goddamn sense
yeah,
why this is in Batman Forever. But that doesn't change the fact that every time that it's played on the radio, or this one time it was played at a bar in college, and everyone was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then halfway through the first verse, everybody in that damn bar was singing along to it because
yep,
everybody knows that it's just such a great song. So
yeah.
so yeah, I don't have much more to say about this because it is a great song and from a great movie, and this does show up on my list as well.
And I just want to say this was one of the years that really hurt. I'm just going to run down this. So 1997, My Heart Will Go On wins for Titanic, and it absolutely should. To be clear, that should have been the winner. They got it right. But also that year, Journey to the Past from Anastasia, How Do I Live from Con Air, Miss Misery from Goodwill Hunting, and Go the Distance from Hercules. I literally wanted to put How Do I Live, Miss Misery, and Go the Distance all on this playlist. And
Mhm.
then I had to remember, oh yeah, they all lost.
Yeah.
This year was great for songs.
Well, and even so, I have a special place for Journey to the Past in like for me personally because when I was in sixth grade choir, we sang that song for the eighth graders that were graduating. And
Yeah,
that I have a special sentimental place for that song, even though that movie is pretty mid. But
I agree.
the
Don't tell my
but
wife I said that.
I will do my best not to say anything, but Go the Distance is like I love Hercules. I think Hercules is severely underrated, and
I'd agree with that too.
also, I don't even think Go the Distance is even the best song from from Hercules, but just for Hercules to get some type of recognition. And then How Do I Live? That's another thing kind of
Diane
similar to
Warren
Kiss.
did something right. It's
It's
crazy.
How Do I Live from Con Air. First of all, it makes no goddamn sense why it's
Yeah.
there, but that doesn't change the fact that How Do I Live, both the Trisha Yearwood version and the Leanne Rimes version were both beautiful songs.
Yep. Terrific, terrific, terrific. My number three track, again, sticking with the theme of iconic stuff. You already said it, Over the Rainbow. This is in my number three spot. I said it up top. I'm gonna put my biggest, my most famous, my most important song. It has to be Over the Rainbow from Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland. It's like the movie song, right? Like it's when you think of original songs from film, this is the one you think of first, or at
Mhm.
least it's the one I think of first. I would imagine it's the one most people think of first. And there's a reason for that. It's just iconic. It is truly one of the few songs that have transcended the film itself. And you could make a solid argument that in this day and age and where we are in the world, with it being over 90 years since this film's release, you could make a solid argument that the song is probably more popular and important in our pop culture than the movie itself.
Yep.
And that's saying something considering Wizard of Oz is one of the most beloved movies of all time.
Mhm.
That's a big statement, and I still think it's accurate. And Judy Garland just has one of the greatest voices ever. She's iconic. And yeah, so this had to be, as soon as I started this project, I knew right away my first track was going to be Lose Yourself, and my third track was going to be Over the Rainbow. And I slotted those in immediately and shifted everything else around that sound.
Good call with that. And not much more to say with that, which the well, I guess the only other thing to say is that The Wizard of Oz does have some great songs in it, but it's always going to be this
Yeah.
one because it's so beautiful. And then also with with the dawn of Wicked kind of bringing the Wizard of Oz back into the forefront, it does kind of irk me a little bit that we can't sing the best song or like best song nominees, but we're gonna sing a Wicked medley. But at the same time, the songs from Wicked are 10 million times better than most of those songs. And
The songs from
I'm
Wicked are better than every song that's nominated for best original song this year, and I don't even think it's debatable.
and I'm looking forward to Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo just making everyone bawl their eyes out.
Yep. Are they doing Defying Gravity? And are they
I'm
doing?
I think that they'd be stupid not to, but
I
also
I would
I don't
imagine
know,
it'd be a medley that would include Popular, The Wizard and I, and maybe even
some dancing
the
through
Oz
life.
Dust Ball,
Yeah.
Dancing Through Life, which will make me cry if they do like the hand
Oh,
motion thing where they put their hands together. And I will absolutely cry if Cynthia starts doing Defying Gravity. I will lose it. I'm just going to say that right now.
yeah, yeah. I'm very much looking forward to that. So
What are your
my
next three?
my next three, so there is a pretty big gap between Pinocchio in 1940 to my
I
next
saw
song.
you skipped some that I didn't skip. I was shocked.
So I went all the way to 1961 to Breakfast at Tiffany's Moon River. And
Yeah,
it's
it
I'm
has to
not a
be
hu-
here.
it has to be here. I'm not a huge Breakfast at Tiffany's fan, but it still doesn't change the fact that this song in particular
It's
is
beautiful.
beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. Because I looked through some of the songs on here like with this gap, and there's a couple that I did consider. So for example, I did consider White Christmas, but kind of similar to another song that's on your list that we're probably going to talk about soon. I didn't pick this version of White Christmas because there are other cover versions that I like a little bit better. And that, it's stupid and catty, but hey, whatever, it's my list. And the only one that I kind of considered on this list was The Ballad of High Noon, but truth be told, I couldn't find it anywhere on Spotify. So I was like, fine, fuck you, Spotify, then I won't include it. So those were the only ones that kind of came close, but overall, I skipped all the way to this and was like, okay, I guess that's how the cookie's gonna fall. So
Yep.
whatever. My next one after that is Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by BJ Thomas, which it's just so
So
unbelievably,
fun and
unbelievably
uplifting.
fun. And
Another
for
one that's transcended the movie. I
mhm,
bet you if you just polled people, most people nowadays wouldn't even know that came from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like they just wouldn't
absolutely,
know.
absolutely not. Because you want to know what most people are gonna say?
Spider-Man
Hey,
2.
that's that song from Spider-Man 2. Like,
Yep.
no, no, that's
Yep.
just you're wrong, but okay,
There's an
fair enough.
entire generation that knows that as the song from Spider-Man 2. Guaranteed, 100%.
Yeah. So I did consider a couple other ones. I considered Chim Chimmery by from Mary Poppins, but
Yep.
same thing from like Disney. It's like too much Disney. And then I did consider a little bit I did consider Dr. Dolittle Talk to the Animals until I realized, oh, it won over the bare necessity. Nope.
Nope.
Sorry.
Not allowed.
Nope. I
Spite throwaway.
exactly. So and then my last song for this next group is the theme from Shaft, which
Heck yeah.
it is this
Barely a
song
song.
is it's just Isaac Hayes. Man, we're never gonna get another guy like him, are we? And it's bullshit. But I this song is just so unbelievably good. It's just yeah, I love this song.
Yeah, I love the song too. It is frustrating to me. I almost didn't want to include it. I know it is objectively one of the best, but it's almost not a song.
It's
He doesn't even
definitely not a
start
song.
singing until like three-quarters of the way through, and he doesn't even really sing lyrics. It's just
It's sing song. It's like
it,
talk singing.
it's more like he's saying catchphrases. Who's the man?
Yep.
And then they just respond, chef. Like it's much more, the first three-quarters of the song is just like the techno, not techno, the electronic synthy beat that from Shaft, which is great. So like it still has to be there, but
Hmm.
it does kind of bother me that it's not a song in the way you would traditionally think of a song, like in the constructed form of like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, or something like that does not exist.
Yeah.
But I still love it.
I totally agree with you. So, all right, give me your next group.
All right. So my next group, I'm now transitioning into some of my songs that again, I did the iconic songs. Now I'm doing some of the best songs that I feel are some of the best. That's my next trio. And my number four, my cleanup. This is the, like I said earlier, this is the one where not track number three is probably the most famous, most important, or quote unquote best song. But number four is my sneaky actual best song that I consider even better than track three. And that's Falling Slowly from Once,
Oh yeah.
which if I had to put money down as my favorite or best original song from any film ever, whether it won or not, thankfully this one won because it freaking deserved it.
Right.
But it's this. I think Falling Slowly is the epitome, the pinnacle of perfect songwriting, especially to get emotional resonance out of it,
Oh, for sure.
and especially in relationship to the film itself. Oh my God. It's just that you talk about Moon River being beautiful, and it is. It's going to be on mine later down the road. But this is beautiful. This is gorgeous songwriting. So Falling Slowly, track four, track five. Unfortunately, Spotify doesn't currently have it available, which makes me real sad.
It this one confused me as well because I so I cheated a little bit and I included the bullshit Nicole Scherzinger and Pussycat Dolls version
Oh,
in this, and I hate that because it is nowhere near as good as the original. But
yeah. I
yeah,
I
I also
I
have
still
this.
included the original. It's just currently grayed out and unavailable to play. It used to be because I listened to this soundtrack a lot. I love the soundtrack of this film, and I guess they just currently lost the rights to it. I'm sure they'll get it back at some point. It's weird. This happens from time to time. Recently, they just lost the rights to a few James Bond themes, so my now James Bond playlist is incomplete, and that drives me nuts too. Regardless,
Mhm.
this is Jai Ho from Slumdog Millionaire. I actually wouldn't even want this one to be the winner. If I had to pick, I would have picked Osaya. I think is the better of the two Slumdog Millionaire songs that were nominated.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
both of these songs are so freaking good that they're still hands and feet over most of the other songs that won. That's just how great this soundtrack was. The whole thing slaps. Jai Ho is tremendous. It is so catchy. It is so Bollywood in the best way. That Indian fusion flair mixed with like modern rock aesthetics. It's so catchy. If you can find it, you could probably have to go and find it on YouTube now because again, it's not available on Spotify or go to I don't know if it's on Apple Music. I don't know. I don't have Apple Music. So but Jai Ho was my fifth track. And then my sixth, this is where the end of my trio of actual best songs. I now have my ballad to cap it off, and
Mhm.
that's my first Disney song, You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan, and Phil Collins' perfect, just gut wrenching emotional ballad.
Mhm.
This song is beautiful. It makes me cry. It made me cry in the 90s. It's made me cry ever since, every time I've watched it. Even when I'm not watching it, sometimes just hearing this song, I'm like, oh, okay, can we change the station? I'm gonna cry.
Mhm.
It's so perfect. It hits me even harder as a parent now that I'm older.
Yep. Yep. I was
Uh,
just about to say that.
yeah, once when you're a parent and you really understand the perspective of this song from the ape perspective of Glenn Close, the mom ape who raised Tarzan, oh man, it hits that much harder,
Mhm.
and it's beautiful and it's perfect, and I will forever love it. So yeah, that's my second trio: Falling Slowly from Once, Jai Ho from Slumdog Millionaire, and You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan.
So Falling Slow and Jai Ho are both on my list as well. And Falling Slowly, let me take that again. Falling Slowly and Jai Ho are both on my list. And Falling Slowly, I agree. I'm not sure I would pick it at number one, but I'd be very high up there, at
Yeah.
least top five. it's just such a beautiful song, and it the emotion with it, like you said, is just it's there, and it embodies everything that you need a best song to do for you, and I love it so much. Jai Ho, I'm one of those people who I think I like Slumdog Millionaire a lot more than other people because
I don't understand when people don't like that movie. I'm going to be real blunt. I think that movie's awesome.
yeah, I loved it. I when I went to go see it in theaters, I really enjoyed it, and just the end sequence with all the dancing
Oh,
and
so fun.
like all the different versions of Jamal and Latika
Mhm.
dancing. I just found that so magical, and I thanks to Marvel, I now want to make sure that I sit through the credits for everything. But there was a time where I was like, "Yeah, the movie's over. I'm good. Let's go." But this was one where I was like, I wanted to watch and just take this all in because look, I'm not that familiar with Bollywood movies. I haven't watched a lot of them, and I think one day I want to remedy that to, just kind of broaden my horizons when it comes to my movie watching. But this was just such a magical song, and it's beautifully done, and I just really enjoy it.
Yep.
You'll Be in My Heart. I didn't include it on my list, and in hindsight maybe I should have, because everything that you said, particularly as as a parent, that this song represents.
Dude, it hits so hard.
Even so, because there's there's two versions of this. There's the end credit version, the more, just the complete
More
song.
poppy. Yep.
Yeah. But then there's the part that's actually in the song, or like in the movie, where she's like she's singing to Tarzan after she's saved him from the leopard, and just it's really it's a really tender moment, and it gives you the chills, and it's
Hmm.
just when you realize, oh, these two are going to be connected forever. And this is fucking adorable. And the only reason why I didn't pick it is because I had so many other Disney songs that like something had to get cut. And I'm also I'm one of those people who I look at all the songs that were nominated this year, and you look at all of them and you're like, one of these is not like the other. And that's the South Park movie in here with Blame Canada, which to me, that is always going to be one of my favorite performances at the Oscars, because the Oscars
Robin Williams
allowing
crushed
Robin
it.
Williams to sing Blame Canada to everybody is hysterical, but also I just love how petty the South Park guys were the season of South Park after they lost the Oscar, because they renamed the sledding hill in South Park Phil Collins Hill, and it was just a giant face of Phil Collins, and they had Phil Collins on, and all he was doing was just holding his Oscar, and that's pettiness that I could get behind.
Yep.
So I like that. And also I look at some of the other songs on this list, and Music of My Heart is a stupid song. It's
Yep.
NSYNC and Gloria Stefan, but that doesn't change the fact that I will support NSYNC in everything that they do. But When She Loved Me, also, that's a heartbreaking song.
Yeah.
And it's a tough call. I understand, because Tarzan, You'll Be in My Heart is just a classic, but that doesn't change the fact that it also When She Loved Me is also a heartbreaking song in a
The When She
vastly
Loved
different
Me
way.
montage is single-handedly responsible, at least for me personally, for Toy Story 2 being my favorite Toy Story movie. I think
Mm,
it is better than the original. I think it's better than 3, and it's because of that moment. It is so pure and so sincere and so heartbreaking. With that said, still, I at least for me, You'll Be in My Heart is my pick from that year. But I totally understand anyone that would say When She Loved Me, or just for the lulls, blame Canada, because
exactly.
why wouldn't you love it?
Yeah. Well, and also Blame Canada is among the most tame song that they could have nominated.
Yeah,
And it's definitely it's and even so, not my favorite song from that movie, because that
it's
movie
probably just
actually has
the
surprisingly a good amount of songs.
I don't even know if it's the most catchy. I don't know if that's the right word. I would say it's probably just the most marketable. It was the most like appropriate song that they could get away with nominating without completely giving the game away of what the South Park movie was really all about.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't even think that they wanted to draw attention to the fact that the title of the film is a circumcision joke. Like they just they you know, I don't think the Academy was really ready for South Park and Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
No, absolutely not. So
Also, their dresses that they showed up to the Oscars in, beautiful. I loved
it
that
was
year.
just,
Hilarious.
it was great stuff. All right. My next couple. So these are the ones that I'm not thrilled with, like with them being on my list, but you know, I feel like there's some songs on both of our lists that were like, okay, like this is here. And if anything, this would be the list part of my list where it's more filler, I guess. And with the exception of one song, because I have Fame by Irene Cara from Fame. And I also have
Which
um
again, I spite didn't do because I
and
wanted 9 to 5 from Dolly Parton.
and let me tell you, I will always support that because it's all good. I picked Say You, Say Me from White Knight because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a giant Lionel Richie fan. So I just wanted to include it, even though the fact that Say You, Say Me won over The Power of Love just
Pisses me off so much.
irks me to no other. And also, I did I did want to include the song from the ceremony in 1985 because I'm not gonna lie, I'm turning 40 later this year, and I'm thinking about that a lot. So
Yeah.
any chance to kind of just give me an opportunity to kind of like zero in and kind of give a little retrospective to that. Yeah, there's that.
Just quick aside, I thought of doing the same thing. I was born in 86. I kind of wanted to do Take My Breath Away from Top Gun, which is I actually think a decent song, but it wasn't good enough to make my list versus some of the other ones I already had.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I had a similar thought.
So I skipped Take My Breath Away because I look at some of the other songs on the 1986 list, and somewhere out there, I played this at trivia a couple
Dude,
weeks
that
ago,
song
and
hits.
and it made two people cry because
Yeah.
they were like, I was not expecting this, and this hit me a lot harder than I thought it was. And I was like, yep, it is one of those songs, and I hate that there's a generation of kids out there that are just this song and this movie are just forgotten to time, and that
Yeah.
sucks.
If this was a Disney production, I think this would be considered one of the better Disney films to this day. But
Hmm.
because it was a Don Bluth gig, separate of any major studio, and has really not been continually marketed beyond, millennials who grew up in the 80s and 90s. Like, if you were born in the 2000s or later, you probably don't even know this movie exists,
Yep.
frankly. And it's sad because this was actually a really great movie about American immigration and had a
Now
lot
more
of heavy
relevant,
themes.
now more relevant than ever, too.
Yeah. They don't make movies like this for kids anymore. The
No, they
stuff that they make for kids is like brain rot that my daughter watches. And I'm
don't.
like, oh my God, I used to watch this stuff. And this was like heavy. And yeah, somewhere out there made me cry back then when I was a kid in the late 80s, early 90s. And it makes me cry now. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I also have a soft spot for Glory of Love as well.
Yeah.
This makes no sense to be in the Karate Kid Part 2, but
Nope.
that doesn't change the fact that I love this song.
Also, I love Mean Green Mother from Outer Space for Little Shop
Yes, I fully agree with that.
here.
So I skipped to 1987 and went with Dirty Dancing's I've Had the Time of My Life. And
Yeah.
this is a song, like this is another song that I play at trivia once a week, or like not once a week. That would be ridiculous. Although no, it wouldn't, because this song is great. And also this is a giant crowd pleaser as well. So many people when they hear just that opening, it's like now I've had the
Mm-hmm.
and it just always gives people the chills, and it always starts getting people going to start dancing. It's a great sing-along song, and it's just the Dirty Dancing soundtrack is pretty spectacular, and for this to kind of just be the one that makes it to the end of the finish line is just brilliant. Now, this does not change the fact that Mannequins, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now is on this list, and or for 1987, and I secretly love that song so much. The fact that it's in the trailer for Thunderbolts just mildly amuses me, but also Mannequin is a ridiculous movie, and if anything, I would encourage anyone to watch it just for the experience to watch it because it's such a stupid movie, but I also kind of secretly love it. And then The Princess Bride is just The
Storybook
Princess
Love
Bride.
is a cute song from
Yeah,
Princess Bride. Yeah.
yeah. Cute, I think, is the perfect way
Yeah.
to say that. So
Just because
that,
we're also on the 80s, because I just wanted to mention this. From 1984, I just called to say I love you from the Woman in Red one. I just want to say that this pisses me off because this was the same year we got Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters from Ghostbusters. But even more importantly, let's hear it for the boy and Footloose from Footloose.
yeah.
And my God, how I want to add Footloose or Let's Hear It from the Boy to my playlist, but I can't. And it pisses me off.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you
Holy
there.
crap, those songs are so much better. I'm glad Stevie Wonder got his Oscar, but what are we doing?
I totally agree with you. And there's actually a couple other songs from Footloose that I love. I love so
Footloose is
much.
so fun, dude.
So yeah, that's yeah. There yeah, some of these songs that are nominated in the 80s be like, "Really? This one? That okay, fine. So be it." So yeah, that is my next three. We're on your 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, we're going back to a little bit of these kind of have to be here, quote unquote, have to be here classics. We already talked about it. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I'm not going to go into it. It's great. It's fun. It's catchy. It's iconic. It's transcended the film itself. It had to be here. Then I also had The Way You Look Tonight from Swing Time, 1936. This is my oldest one. This was the third award that they ever gave out for this category. Pretty much this just comes down to I really wanted a Fred Astaire song. I really I really wanted because I didn't put the Continental on there because I really don't like the Continental.
That's
Also,
fair.
I couldn't find a Fred Astaire version of the Continental on Spotify. I found other people's covers of it, and I was like, no, I want the Fred Astaire version. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
And The Way You Look Tonight, again, you may not recognize it from the title, but trust me, Google it, go to Spotify, look up The Way You Look Tonight by as sung by Fred Astaire. You're gonna probably recognize that song. It's kind of a classic.
Kind of a classic. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
get what you're saying there. The only reason why I did not include The Way You Look Tonight is because I love the Frank Sinatra version. I love various other versions of
Yeah.
it. It's kind of the same issue that I had with including White Christmas on my list as well. I know that those are bullshit reasons, but I also needed to have some bullshit reasoning in here to narrow down my list.
Yep.
So
I get it. At some point, you have to make cuts. And my next one, we already spoke on it, is the theme from Shaft by Isaac Hayes from Shaft. Like we said earlier, it's not really a song. I don't care. It's still so much fun. It's still so good. It has to be here. If you're going to do a best of best original song winners, this is clearly one of them. So my 7, 8, and 9 here are kind of classic songs that are very famous in their own right, that are iconic for winning these awards and even kind of transcending the films themselves. They had to be here. So yeah, that's my next trilogy.
all right, my 10, 11, and 12. So very Disney heavy part of my
Because now
list.
you're in the 90s.
Now we're in the 90s, and I actually talked this over with my daughter, my 7-year-old, about which Disney songs to include on this. And her logic was sound as to why we didn't include The Little Mermaid, uh, or The Lion King for that matter. And The Little Mermaid, I like Kiss the Girl better than Under the Sea a little bit. I know that's
Really?
crazy. I know that's crazy, but I just really like that song a lot, and that doesn't change the fact that Under the Sea is just a banger of a song, but just it came down to preference at the end of the day. Plus also having a daughter and watching The Little Mermaid is frustrating to say the least because you're just like I just keep thinking in my head, particularly from the animated version. I'm 16 years old. I'm not a child. It's like
Yes, you are. You're a child.
just stop talking now, please.
I would like to say I think I'm the reverse of you. I prefer Under the Sea, but I still absolutely respect Kiss the Girl. What I would actually ask of you though I think the best song wasn't even nominated. So Kiss the Girl and Under the Sea were nominated. Under the Sea won.
You mean
I
poor
think
unfortunate soul? Oh,
part
oh,
of your
part of your
world,
world. Yeah, that's right.
like
Yeah.
that is the showstopper of that movie, and
Hmm.
it's not even close. And that didn't get nominated. I think that's so weird.
I
I
mean,
actually think Poor Unfortunate Souls is more fun as well.
yeah,
But they
but
would never nominate a villain song. That's just not going to happen. But Part of Your World, I think, should have not been nominated, and I think absolutely should have won.
yes, I would agree with that. Part of your world is it's such a beautiful song, but it's also like heartbreaking because she's pouring her heart out into just just singing about all these different things that she just wants to experience in her life. And do you have any idea how many times I reference this song on a weekly basis? Like if there's something like if it's really nice outside and like all of us are just like at work or just staring outside and we're like, I wish I was outside. I'm like, someday I'll be part of that world. And do you have any idea how many people are like, what are you talking about? Like,
Don't say that. I don't like
you,
to hear that. Stop.
I so I would agree with that, but skipping to 1991 and Beauty and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it's a
Beauty
tale
and
as
the
old as time.
True as it can be, right? So Beauty and the Beast still to this day holds the record for the movie that I've seen the most in theaters. I saw Beauty and the Beast 9 times in theaters.
Oh wow.
So
The record is 5 times, and I'm not sharing the movie. It's embarrassing.
I mean, I'm okay.
It's
All
it's
right.
Alien versus Predator.
Oh no, no, no. That's I I saw the first Mortal Kombat movie 5 times in theaters as well, so
Nice.
I can empathize with that.
There is nothing more fun that year than like, oh my god, did you see Alien versus Predator? It sucked. Oh, do you want to go see it after school lets out? Let's go watch it again and laugh at it. And we just kind of kept doing that for a few weeks. It was great.
Nice. That's awesome. So, Beauty and the Beast, like to me, this is one of my favorite Disney movies, even though
Yep.
it hasn't aged particularly well with the whole, oh, she's got a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, and Gaston is just like everything that represents it represents everything that's wrong with men in general. And but that doesn't change the fact that this dance sequence is beautiful, and the song is just absolutely gorgeous. I even love the Celine Dion version of
Yeah.
this as well. I'm not gonna lie.
Angela
I also
Lansbury version is superior though.
I I would agree with that, but that doesn't change the fact that I still have a soft spot for the Celine Dion version
Yeah.
with Peebo Bryson, who also does the pop version of A Whole New World as well. I'm not gonna lie, I very much love Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. It's ridiculous, but I
Hmm.
love it, and I love everything
This
I do. I
this
do
was
it
a
for
good
you.
year, I think,
Yeah,
for nominees.
yeah. So, but Beauty and the Beast, not only just that moment with the dance sequence and just the art and the animation as well with the combination of computer animation and hand drawn was gorgeous. I'll never forget the first time that I saw that in theaters. And even as like a 6 year old or like 5 6 year old like looking at that and being like, holy shit, this is amazing to
Yeah.
watch. Yeah, I really like that. And then my next song in this group is A Whole New World from Aladdin. I this to me also just represents that Disney magic because how much more magical can you get than a magic carpet ride? I I have issues with Aladdin as, for a variety of reasons, and I think this is one of the only live action movies that I'm like, okay, you're kind of course correcting a little bit, and I appreciate that. But that also doesn't change the fact that A Whole New World is just it's a beautiful song and I love
Yep.
it. And it's one of those songs that it just holds a special place in my heart. And then the final one in this group is from Titanic. My Heart Will Go On, because it's My Heart Will Go On. And
Yeah.
if you don't include this, like if anybody were to make a song of or a playlist of all of these songs and not include this, then you're wrong. Just plain
Yeah.
and simple, you're wrong.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. I didn't include A Whole New World on mine just Disney cap.
Yeah.
There were other ones I wanted to include instead, but that song's great. And the other two I have. So my next three I have, and this one I am ashamed. I don't like that I included this.
I refuse to put this on my list. Like,
You is
and
this the one you were talking about that you were spiteful not including?
yeah,
Yeah,
this was
and I get
this
it.
was this was a total this is total spite, even though it it probably does belong on
Yeah,
this list, but I
and that's where I logic and fairness won out over my emotions. Brain beat heart on this one. This is Let It Go from Frozen. As a parent, as a father of two daughters who
yeah.
has watched Frozen all the time, I'm so sick of this movie. If I never see it again the rest of my life, that'd be great. If I never hear this soundtrack again the rest of my life, that'd be great. I'd be so thrilled to never have to deal with anything Frozen again ever. I know that's not going to be the case, and I have to make peace with that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
the reality is this song was a phenomenon. This was a cultural touchstone the year it came out, and kind of still has been to this day ever since. Now, not as big as when it came out, but for that first year and a half to 2 years that movie was out, and that song was everywhere, everywhere. And that was still a tremendous Adina Menzel performance at the Oscar ceremony itself. And again, if I'm doing a best of the Oscars best original songs, it feels disingenuous to not include this. So Let It Go is here. I'm sorry, but it has to be. Like
You
it just
should never apologize for it. As
I am
also,
apologizing. Dear listener who is suffered through this song just like I have, I am apologizing, but
look,
I felt it was necessary, a
Heath,
necessary
we
evil.
we both have we both have two daughters,
Yep.
and the amount of times that I've listened to this song is borderline criminal.
Yeah.
And you
It's
you
excruciating.
yeah,
It's not fun. It's a
it
nice way
is
to put it.
it is not fun, but I this is one where I let my spike get the best of me, and I was like, nope, can't do it, and that's why I have It's Hard Out There for a Pimp instead of Let It Go on here. It's so stupid, but I couldn't just let it go.
Hey, I get it. My next track after Let It Go is I actually have White Christmas. I'm shocked that you don't have this, and even more shocked, frankly, that you don't like the Bing Crosby version. This is the definitive version of the song to me. I now personal slight diatribe here. This is a family tradition to me. My
Mhm.
family watches this 1954 classic every year, every Christmas, sometimes two or three times with from the stretch of like Black Friday to like New Year's. Like we watch this all the time. I have every scene line memorized. I don't even need to watch it. I know what's happening on the screen. And because of that, the Bing Crosby version, which actually, to be clear, didn't even come from the film White Christmas. It
No,
came
it
from the
didn't.
film Holiday
Holiday
Inn.
Inn,
We
yeah.
watched that film a lot too. A little bit less because the blackface and the racism, but the song is still beautiful. I think it is just it's it's the perfect encapsulation of what you want out of that holiday season in so many ways. And Bing Crosby's sultry baritone voice is so smooth and soothing and inviting and welcoming of like, don't you want it to be a merry Christmas as well? Don't you want a white Christmas? You want that fresh fallen snow? And it's just the definitive holiday song for me. Like again, talk about transcending the film. I certainly don't think of Holiday Inn, but I don't even think of White Christmas when I hear the song. I just think of the Christmas season.
Mhm.
And I think Bing's voice is tremendous. Again, I this was kind of like the Fred Astaire. I really wanted a Bing Crosby song on here, and there was no other option than White Christmas for me.
Okay.
And
I,
then,
I I hear you with all of that, and yeah, I gotcha.
yeah, and then my this is a selfish pick. My favorite franchise of all time is James Bond 007, which died roughly 4 days ago when Amazon
I've just decided to take it over,
just
and it's
bought all the creative rights. So rest in peace to my favorite franchise ever. I look forward to Amazon Prime turning you into exactly what Disney Plus did to Star Wars. I look forward
Yeah.
to my Q Branch spin-off television show, my Money Penny spin-off television show, my M time
Origin
period
story. Yeah.
flashback to World War II. And I'm if you can tell I'm spiteful, it's yeah, that's the thing. I'm very resentful right now because I know that my favorite franchise of all time is going to be
About to get
diluted
fucked
and
over.
strip
Yeah.
mined, and it's going to be not fun.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to get a Bond song on here. They actually didn't even win an Oscar until Skyfall. It had been nominated before then,
Bunch
but
of bullshit.
they did like 20 plus films, all of them having original songs, a lot of them with really famous songs like Goldfinger and whatnot that just never even got nominated. But ever since Skyfall, James Bond has won every time. Every time they've made a Bond movie, the original song has been nominated and it has won. So it's now become like a Hollywood staple. If you won an Oscar, go make a Bond theme. You might damn well get it. But the best of them to me is undeniably Skyfall.
Mhm.
Adele is tremendous here.
Yeah.
Her voice is perfect. And it's not even just her voice and her performance, it's the music, it's the instrumentation. This evokes classic Bond. It
Mhm.
sounds like something that could have been made in the 60s or 70s, but particularly the 60s. It evokes those old Shirley Bassey themes from an era of like Goldfinger. Skyfall is tremendous. It works really well on its own. It works in even better form within context of the James Bond franchise itself. I think it's fantastic. So it's not just like, oh, I'm being selfish. I mean, I am, but I'm being selfish in my affinity for Bond. But I think it is genuinely also one of the best original song winners. So I'm
It's
happy
on
to put it here.
it's on my list too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, to me, her performance at the Oscars live was just so
Oh,
powerful, and
so good.
it was just so good. And also Skyfall is an interesting entry into the Daniel Craig James Bond
It's my
movies.
favorite
And
Bond film, period,
yeah,
ever. I think it is damn near perfect.
I I really I love Skyfall.
Yeah.
It's so much. And then you couldn't have picked like a perfect theme song for
Yeah.
that. And yeah, like the other ones that have won since, they're all good, but they
Yeah.
just don't hold a candle to Skyfall. They
Yep.
just don't.
I can listen to Writings on the Wall. It's fine. I like No Time to Die even more than Writing on the Wall. Billie Eilish is good, don't get me wrong, but Skyfall, Adele, fucking home run, knocked it out of the park. So yeah, that's my next trio. I Let It Go from Frozen, White Christmas from Holiday Inn, and Skyfall from Skyfall.
So my next group, 1998 is an interesting year because they have I Don't Want to Miss a Thing on there from Armageddon, which that's another song that's like, what is this doing here? Like, why
Diane Warren and Aerosmith. Who knew?
who knew? I
Also, that
sneakily,
song's catchy as hell. I can't help it. It
yeah,
is.
I would agree. And also, when I think of that era of music with the music videos, and like the first song I think about is, well, no, in reality, the first song I think about is Iris from City of
Goo
Angels,
Goo Goo Dolls. Yep.
it's ridiculous, but hey, like it still doesn't change the fact it's a good song. The second song I think about is Armageddon. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. This reminds me of TRL in the afternoons and
Yep.
just seeing this music video. But I went to go see The Prince of Egypt with my middle school youth group, and I'm not a very religious person. It's just, yeah, it's just not my thing. But that doesn't change the fact that when I saw this movie, which I've seen the Ten Commandments a zillion times, and I know the story of Moses, and I'm like, I'm not going to get anything new out of this. But when they did When You Believe, even just during the movie, not like the Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, which, boy, two powerhouse vocals who are just having a giant pissing contest to see who can outbelt the other. But in the context of the movie and how it's incorporated, it gave me chills. And I don't want to say like I had a crisis of faith, because that's definitely not what happened, but like the closest thing that I could get to like what we used to call like a God moment where I was just like, oh, I kind of feel something for this is when I watched The Prince of Egypt. And I can't
Yeah.
deny the effect that it had on me. It's The Prince of Egypt is just like a like way toned down version of like what actually happens, but I still enjoy it enough to where I like the song from this. It's a beautiful song, and given the context of everything that's happening within it, it it's very moving to me.
This was one of my very last cuts. I am not religious at all. I am actually not even the biggest fan of that movie. I respect it, and I think it's a good movie in terms of quality when I look at it objectively from a distance. But in terms of how I feel about it, I don't like it. Inherently, any movie that's strictly about religious text is going to come off as preachy to me.
Oh, well,
It's
it's
unavoidable.
because it totally is. That's the
It is,
problem.
yeah. I had someone argue with me once. They're like, "Oh, no, it's not preachy." I'm like, by definition, it's preachy. You're literally telling me stories from the Bible. I would feel this way about any religious film that was you want to take the Quran or whatever. Like any film that did this, I would inherently feel it's preachy.
Mhm.
So I just don't vibe with it as a film personally, but I respect the hell of it. And a big part of that is this song. I think When You Believe is so beautiful. It's a great song. So even me, not even being a fan of that movie, I really wanted to find a spot for this song. I just couldn't find a place for it, and it just missed my list.
Yeah. My next song is Lose Yourself. Nothing else needs to be
Yep,
said about it. I think you
we spoke
perfectly
about it
encapsulated.
earlier. It's a
Uh,
banger. It's awesome.
so my next song is from Into the West from Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Is this a very good song? No, like it just absolutely not. Most of the songs from like even May It Be, not not a particularly memorable song. The Lord of the Rings movies are known very much more for their score, and rightfully
Yep.
so, because those scores are damn near perfect.
I would actually go so far as to say the songs in The Hobbit are better than
I
the song. Like Misty Mountains, I listen to that
I
way more than I listen to Into the West.
I would agree with that. So the reason why it's on my list, even though a small part of me is irked that it won over A Mighty Wind, like A Kiss at the End of the Rainbow, which like I can't help but chuckle whenever I hear that song. But I remember because those watching all three of those Lord of the Rings movies in high school had a profound effect on me as like a movie loving person.
Yes, agreed.
And sitting there at the end of Return of the King, after you invested 3 years of your life, like just waiting for these movies to come out, and this was back in the day when
Midnight
tr
releases, baby.
midnight releases, and back when, hey, you had to camp out at the theaters so you
Yeah.
could find an opportunity to
There
sit
weren't reserved
together.
seats. If you wanted a good seat, so you weren't looking directly up at the screen,
You
you
had to
were
go
there at like
early.
6 or 7 in in the evening, maybe even earlier, and you sat there in the lobby of the movie theater waiting for hours. You would bring like cards or like books to read or ways to entertain yourself. You bring like a Game Boy or something
Mhm.
because you would be sitting there for like 6 hours until midnight to go see the movie.
Yeah. I remember sitting there with a group of friends watching the end title sequence to this. It's kind of the same way I felt at the end of Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
watching the titles and just realizing I had invested so much of my life for this. And I was just bawling listening
Yeah.
to this song and being like, I can't believe that this is over, but hell of a ride. And it will just go down as like one of my favorite movie theater going experiences, which that's actually going to be a podcast that I start coming up pretty soon is talking
Oh,
about a
cool.
movie and your movie theater going experience. And the first one I'm going to talk about is just going to see the Lord of the Rings movies with some friends because we would always this was back in the day also when we collected money to, go buy advance tickets
Yeah.
and
You couldn't just buy them on your phone and just have an app that did it all. It wasn't that easy. You'd be
nope.
like, all right, everyone start pooling money, bring it all to school, and be like, okay, give it to one person. Here's everyone's money. You got like $60. Go to the theater after school today and go buy tickets for everyone.
Yep.
I
You
remember all of that.
You get it, So,
Yep. I
so
we were the same age, so I watched those all in high school as well. And yeah, I this one didn't make my list, and I think you probably see where this is going. I had the same visceral reaction to you, and I personally really like this song and enjoy it because of my connection to these films. The Lord of the Ring films are directly attributable to opening up my eyes to cinema as a larger art form and why I love film today. So it's very personally important. I just don't think that the song is worthy of best of all time. I kind of look at it as the reverse of the Let It Go. Like, Let It Go is probably objectively one of the best original song winners of all time. It's certainly one of the most famous. And as much as I don't care for it, it should be on the list. This is the reverse of that, where I bet you most people don't even remember the name of this song.
oh, I
And
guarantee you most people don't.
yeah, and they might remember the tune a little bit, but that's because it largely uses a lot of chunk of the original score from the film in
Hmm.
the background. So you're more so recognizing the score, which again, like you said, the score is more famous anyway. But like, I just don't care. I have an affinity for it and a love for it. But unfortunately, again, my mind, my logic and reason prevailed over my heart and my passion. So I left this one off my list, but it hurts because I do love this song.
Okay, noted. All right, give
My
me 13 through 15.
my next three. Flashdance, what a feeling. Basically, I wanted a cheesy 80s song on here. I wanted a fun dance number. I thought that was just important. It was a type of tempo and song that I was missing because I couldn't get Footloose. Again, that was a big part of it. I couldn't get Power of Love. Take My Breath Away was too slow. You know, there was just this coalescence of like early to mid 80s films that are all really great that I wanted, but they're just either they didn't win, like 9 to 5, or they won, but they're just not the right tone, except for Flashdance. Flashdance won a feeling. I could have picked Maniac also from Flashdance, but I think Flashdance, oh, I couldn't actually pick Maniac because it didn't win. But
But I get
even,
what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I would prefer Flashdance. What a feeling anyway. I think it's just, it's more fun. Certainly more fun than Papa Can You Hear Me from Yentl. So happy to get that in there. Just a great synthy mid 80s dance vibe. I love it. And then the next one, you spoke about it earlier. Again, just beautiful song, had to be here. And that's Moon River, Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's. It just, I needed it. It has to be on this list. If you're going to do a best original songs, this is clearly one of the best. And then from the early 90s, I have The Boss. I've got Bruce Springsteen, Streets of Philadelphia. This is one that surprised me, where I remember always loving this song, but it's one of those songs you like kind of forget about. And then like
Mhm.
someone plays it, or you have a reason to go look it up, like, putting together a project of best original songs. And you go back and listen to it again, you're like, oh shit, this song's really good. This is way better than I remember. It's a very moving, emotional ballad. Bruce is, excuse me, is giving it like so much passion and bravado without going over the top with it. It feels like it's a personal song that he's singing to you one on one versus just like singing out to a crowd, which gives it this level of intimacy that makes it more powerful. It's just this really, really powerful song. And every time I got my initial 30 and I started making cuts, I was like, does Streets of Philadelphia go here or does this other song? And I was just, Streets of Philadelphia just kept hanging around. And I was like, man, I guess I like this so much more than I remember liking it. And then I was like, am I crazy? So I went to look up some other lists, like, because you could go online, hey, what are the best original song winners of all time? And no, a lot of people also listed this as one of them, like in their top 10 or top 15. And I was like, okay, I'm not alone on an island here. This is really just a great song. So you probably forgot it exists, but Bruce Springsteen, Streets of Philadelphia, that song's a banger. So that's my 13 through 15. Flashdance, What a Feeling from Flashdance, Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Streets of Philadelphia from Philadelphia.
So I think at the end of the day, I think I just had a conversation with myself about which one do I include, Fame or Flashdance? What a feeling. And I just ended up going with Fame instead. And Streets of Philadelphia was my last one out, and like this one crushed me to not include it on the list because given everything that happens in that movie, it's
It hits that much harder.
it just hits so much harder. So I really like that one. And between this and like his song from Jerry Maguire, which wasn't even nominated either, Bruce Springsteen had, hell of a 90s when it came to movie songs. So my next three, so 16 through 18. So two of these have already been mentioned, Falling Slowly and Jai Ho. But my 16, I did include the song from Hustle and Flow on here. It's hard out there for a pimp. I like to me, I added this in for historical significance, I
Yeah,
guess,
I
because
get that.
it's there's another rap song that won shortly after Lose Yourself. And you know how you go through the list of like certain people who have won Oscars and you're just like, oh, that's right, Academy Award winner Marissa Tomei, or different things like that. And you're like, how the fuck did this person get an Oscar? It is the same way that I feel about how 3 6 Mafia are Oscar winners.
Yep.
And it's crazy, crazy to me because I'm pretty sure that to this day, they still carry around those Oscars like in their backpacks or something like that and just be like, yeah, we're fucking Oscar winners. I personally like I don't agree with the context of the song Whoop That Trick at all, but that doesn't change the fact that like I'm a big basketball fan and the Memphis Grizzlies play Whoop That Trick a lot at their games. So there's that as well. And this is another weird year where it's like only 3 songs were nominated and none of these are very good. So, but I picked this one just for historical significance, even though,
I'm not gonna lie. I remember this more for being significant just because of Queen Latifah's reaction when she read the card. If you
oh
remember,
yeah, I
because
do
she was
remember
the one
that.
who read the nominees and opened it and gave the award, and she lost it on stage and started dancing
Mhm.
when she realized that 3 6 Mafia won and she got to call them up. And like that's almost more memorable to me than the actual win itself, is just watching Queen Latifah be so excited.
Right. So yeah, those are my next groups. So you're 16 through 18.
This next one is in the Let It Go Frozen category for me, where this is a respect pick. I
Mm,
actually, not that I don't like this song and not that I don't like this movie, I'm just not nearly as enamored with it in this movie as most people are. But it is undeniable that this song was huge
mhm.
when it came out and has since garnered such a fan following, and that's Shallow from
Yeah.
A Star Is Born in 2018 with the 2018 Oscars for the 2017 film. This is the fourth time they've made A Star Is Born, at least by my count.
Yeah.
It's one of the most remade films ever. And every time they come out with a new song, Barbara Streisand did the most recent one prior to this back in the 80s, I believe, or maybe it was even late 70s. Whatever. This song's fine. I alluded earlier, I'm not the biggest country fan. This is the kind of country I don't enjoy. It just is very flavorless to me. It doesn't have much unique quality to it. I understand it is still very moving and emotional. And I actually really like the fact that it's a duet, which
Yeah.
is not something we get much of. And so that's really cool and unique. And Bradley Cooper does a great job singing. He doesn't quite keep up with Lady Gaga, of course, but still, he does.
Nobody
Yeah,
keeps
it
up with Lady Gaga.
that's a tall order. So, but for what he's doing, he does a good job, and the song works really well for the film. So this is a respect pick. Again, if I'm doing best original songs and I'm doing the best of those songs, this just had to be here.
I
Then I have,
I get what you're saying there. I do. This was one that I cut pretty early
yeah,
on because I I think the song is perfectly fine. Uh, to me, I will always remember. the performance at the Oscars way more than I'll remember the
Yeah,
song because
where it
it's
looked like they wanted to make out on stage.
are these two like gonna straight up kiss? Because like
Yeah,
if they do, I'd be okay with it because these two would make
I'd be
beautiful
okay with the
babies.
chaos. I want to see what happens. Yeah, I was kind of hoping for it.
Yeah.
And then after that, I have Miss Angela Lansbury and Beauty and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. We already talked about it earlier. It's tremendous. It's one of the best ballads Disney's ever made. Had to be here. And then I have my last real upbeat, I would say energetic, fun, exciting song of my album. After this, I start to slow down the tempo as the album winds down. And that's Not to from RRR. This had to be here. This song is it's just great. And it's
It's
funny because there was actually other greats. This was a pretty good year. I speaking of Lady Gaga, I would have been totally fine if Lady Gaga had won for Hold My Hand
I
from Top Gun
agree.
Maverick.
I agree.
I love that song. I actually listened to that song a lot. I listened to that way more than I listened to Not to. But because of the context of how Not to works within the film RRR, which is already a great, fun Bollywood film, and that intensely insane dance number and the crap they're doing with their suspenders and stuff, it's so fun. I remember the talk of like our Slack chat going into that year's Oscars of like who's all just excited to see the Not to dance. Like that's why
Right.
we're all tuning in, right?
Hmm.
And it lived up to the hype. It was so much fun. So yeah, Not to from RRR, just a great dance number. I really wanted an exciting dance number. Had to be here. So that's my 16 through 18. Shallow from A Star Is Born, Beauty and the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, and Not to from RRR.
All right. So my final three songs. So for my 19 is Skyfall by Adele. We've
Yep,
talked about it. One of these days, one thing that we should probably that one another episode that we could possibly do is James Bond theme songs and maybe like
please.
even come to a consensus and commiserate over the current state of what's going to happen to James Bond now that
It's
Amazon
gonna
is.
die, and I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah. So my next song, I picked Remember Me from Coco. And the first time I saw this, I bawled. Just
I'm
bawled.
assuming, just to be clear, we're not talking about the pop version. We're
So,
talking about the at the very end when Miguel sings it to Grandma Coco.
yes.
Yep.
So I picked that version for a couple reasons. One, that part made me bawl.
Yep.
Just absolutely like in
Devastating. I
in
was a
in
mess in the theater.
in the in the day and age with the Pixar punch, where it just there's emotional gut punches. This one's pretty high up there in terms of just the emotion that it carries. And you know Pixar doesn't do a whole lot of like musicals per se, and this is the one that was like, oh shit, this is just steeped in the Spanish lore. And I I just love this. Plus, also, this version is only a minute long, so I could just slide it in just very
Yeah.
nicely. So this is the definitive version. It's I would have loved to like a full version of like the one with like not Ernesto de la Cruz and not the Miguel version at the end, which
But his dad,
I do like. Yeah.
or
So
not his dad,
or
his great grandfather,
Hector,
Hector.
that's his
Yeah.
name. I would have loved a full version of that, and but still doesn't hold a candle to Miguel just like strumming on his guitar, singing to Mama Coco, like in
He's
just
almost crying himself. Yeah.
praying to God that she just remembers him.
Yep.
And like I had seen it, and then I eventually showed my wife it, and she didn't see it coming, and she was bawling too. And like this is one that also my oldest daughter has only cried during one movie, and that's Monsters Inc. when Boo had to say bye to Sully. And rightfully so. That is a very emotional part. This was
Yeah.
the other one that almost got her. Uh,
And it'll
so
probably get her as she gets older.
exactly. And then my last song is Not to from RRR. Truth be told, if I'm just Ken would have won the Oscar, that probably would have ended this. I still would have included RRR, but I probably would
Something
have,
else would have been cut. Yeah.
yeah. But Alas, the Billie Eilish song from Barbie, it's still great, but not to is not to because it's just
Yeah.
it's so energetic, and the performance at the Oscars was also fantastic as well. And it just everybody was just rooting for this song, and I loved it. So because you're totally right about everybody talking about it in Slack channels. So yeah, I was very happy that this was the end of my playlist.
My next three. So I lied earlier. Haha, fooled you. Take My Breath Away is here. But it couldn't be earlier because that's the album was still more upbeat and
Mhm.
there was more energy. Now that I'm winding down the album, I did find a way to sneak in Top Gun. Take My Breath Away is my number 19.
Mhm.
Not gonna go into more detail than that because we've kind of talked about it tertiarily earlier, but I
Yeah.
love it. It's just a fun ballad, and I love Top Gun in there. I was able to sneak in my 1986 film. And then I also have right after that, number 20, I've Had the Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing. Again, just it's fun, and it also works as a great capper to the album getting coming towards the end here because it's the ending song of that movie. So it even has a sense of finality to it in the context of the film, even in the context of the lyrics. The song is about I've had the time. It's talking about the end of all things, and yeah, it's so fun and uplifting, and it's fun to dance to, and it's fun to watch people sing to, and it's just a good time.
Mhm.
And I find that movie so rewatchable, and a lot of that movie is rewatchable because of the soundtrack and specifically because of this track.
You know what's funny? So I was talking with somebody, like one of my younger coworkers, and we were talking about like favorite songs from movies. And I talked about this one. This was definitely up there. And she was like, "You mean that song from Crazy Stupid Love?" I'm like, "No, I
Stop
don't."
it.
Like they even mention in the movie that
Mike,
it's
you
from
keep
Dirty
saying things
Dancing.
that make me feel bad for being old, and I don't like it.
Look, I felt like this was a safe space, and I know at the end of the day you just get it. So
Yep, I get it.
I feel comfortable telling you these things, and I'm sorry.
And my last track is Remember Me from
Mhm.
Coco, specifically the 1 minute and 14-second version that Miguel sings to Mama Coco at the end of the film. Again, kind of like you. One, it's a great way to snake in an extra song in here because that one's so short. But two, that is the correct version of that song to sing and play anyway. That is the emotional climax of that film, of everything that that film stands for and is trying to accomplish. I remember seeing that in theaters. I was already a mess. That was the Pixar movie where Bao was the short film before the film, and Bao made me cry. And
Mhm.
I'm sitting there crying, and there's like a whole bunch of moms with their like 6-year-old kids in the theater around me, and they're like, "Why is this like 30-something-year-old man crying about this Chinese food dish?" And I was like, "You don't understand. This is
Mhm.
beautiful."
Yeah.
So happy that I'm pretty sure that one animated short film that year and it deserved it. But then when the movie came up, I was like, okay, collect yourself, Heath. It's okay. And then as the movie's going on, I'm like, oh, I feel like this is going to hurt at some point. I feel like I might cry again. And then it gets to the end of the movie, and Miguel himself can barely keep it together as he's playing this to Mama Coco. And it's perfect. And it
It's
is,
yeah.
and again, even just looking at it lyrically, talking about Remember Me, it's just like this is the best way to cap this. This has to be my final song. This
Mhm.
has to be the way the album, the playlist goes out. So yeah, my final excuse me, my final three: Take My Breath Away from Top Gun, I've Had the Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing, and Remember Me, specifically the reunion version from Coco. That is my 19, 20, and 21.
Well, those are our lists. I already said my album cover, but Heath, if your mix CD was an actual CD, what would be the album cover?
This would be a plain white album cover with a Oscar statuette dead center imposed over other Oscar statues kind of behind it.
Mhm.
The other ones behind it would be much smaller, but one major one in the center. And then with an opacity filter because I would essentially make 4 quadrants out of that, a row of Oscar statuettes through across the middle, and then one Oscar statue standing dead middle makes 4 quadrants. In those 4 quadrants, I'd fill them with the artists, like
Hmm.
maybe one quadrant has Eminem, one quadrant has Judy Garland, one quadrant has Fred Astaire, and then another has Lady Gaga or Bruce Springsteen or whatever, and opacity down, maybe they're at 20%. So like if you're really looking, you can see them. But if you're not paying too much attention, all you're mainly seeing is the Oscar statues. And then nice bold text, best of the Oscars, best original score or best original songs. So something like that is probably what I'd go for.
Very nice. Well, Heath, thank you very much for putting together this playlist and talking with me about your best of Oscar best original songs. So, where can the people find you, and do you have anything that you want to plug?
Thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, if anyone wants to hear more of my ramblings, I promise I have a ton more of them. But I don't blame you at all if you're already sick of hearing from me and you don't want to. But if you want to find me, you can find me on Letterboxd. Search the One Heath Bar or Heath Lynch. Either one should be able to find me. And you can also find me at my podcast that I do with my partners and friends, Foster Harlfinger and Rowan Wood. We have a podcast called Franchise Paradiso. Again, Franchise Paradiso, where we analyze, dissect, and do a ton of rankings of different aspects of franchises and franchise film. We did a whole season on horror. We are currently wrapping up our season on superheroes and comic book films, and then we'll be prepping season 3 here soon. And we don't even do just franchise stuff. We also talk about other films too and do Oscars analysis, but mainly franchise films. So that's where you can find me.
So, check out Heath's writing on
Yes,
sifpop.com as
my writing
well.
on sifpop.com or knockonwood.com, specifically if you want to catch the Oscars What If articles that we discussed earlier, those are on siftpop.com.
I'll put the link in the episode description, but check those out.
Thank you.
So Heath recently did an episode of Franchise Paradiso where he talked about Amelia Perez. Definitely recommend that. It's a good listen. So please, definitely check that out. So just want to prop that up. But again, Heath, thank you very much. Looking forward to chatting with you more again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Well, my friends, the time has come to end this episode of Mix CD. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website soon to be out at spdmcrew.com. You could follow our playlist on Spotify and Apple Music at Mike Hilty. Shout out to High Flyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. And if you have any marketing, logo, or brand standard needs, contact them at highflyercreative.com. If you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at spdmcrew@gmail.com. Until next time, no matter what happens now, you shouldn't be afraid because I know today has been the most perfect day I've ever seen.